Super Bowl licks is set. Chiefs, Eagles, 2 weeks from now in New Orleans, Louisiana. But we're not talking about that game today as much as we're talking about how many believe that the Kansas City Chiefs cheated their way into yet another big dance. Is that actually accurate? We'll also take a look at the latest in the Houston Texans offensive coordinator search and what lessons they can learn from conference championship weekend. And we'll also take a look at the Ryan Presley trade over the weekend and if it means that Alex Bregman is actually coming back to Houston. Let's go.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people wonder.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
Grow up, are you kidding me? Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Everyone was excited for another rendition of the AFC Championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. And I thought that the game delivered. Kansas City ultimately wins a close one, a game marked by some of the same old stuff that we've come to expect from the Chiefs, where they make all the big plays and the big moments. And the Bills, who have given their fans quite the tortured existence over their history. I know that people are tired of seeing the Chiefs constantly get to this stage in the same way that people got sick of the Houston Astros getting to World Series after World Series after World Series. I know that some people felt the same way about the Patriots doing that, the Golden State Warriors doing that. But I feel like when you start blaming the referees for your team coming up short or a team that you're annoyed by or sick of keeps winning, I think you suck. Because that's not why the Chiefs won the AFC Championship game. It's not. I understand a lot of people are going to point at two plays in this game. You're going to point at, first, the catch by Xavier Worthy downfield, where it never looked like he had possession of the football. A play where the Bills were called for a holding penalty and the Chiefs would have had a first down. So it's a difference of 23 yards. Was it a good call? No. Is that the reason that the Chiefs scored a touchdown there? Is that the reason Kansas City had a short field? Would Kansas City have still scored anyway? Calls like that happen. That was an egregious one. And upon review, even though it maybe wasn't the smartest challenge, given that the Chiefs still got a first down out of it, I don't understand how they stuck with the call. But do you think that that call was made because the NFL, which was doing a bit of damage control before the game on Sunday with Adam Schefter putting out a couple of tweets and a story about how the NFL plans to make roughing the passer calls, unnecessary roughness calls, reviewable next year. Do you really think that the NFL wants people to question whether or not all of this is legitimate? No, I don't think that's the case. And then the other call later on, about 6 minutes, the first down, but I'm still not 100% sure what went down. I've watched that replay back a million times. And every single time that I look at it, I'm not convinced that the right call or wrong call was made. I really don't know. But go back and watch it. If you do watch it in real time, you'll notice that the referee at the top of the field on the sideline, he said originally he marked the ball in a spot where it probably would have been a Bills first down. The referee on the other side of the field saw otherwise. Go back and watch it. I'm right here. if you look at the replay, the referee on the far side of the field with the better spot for the Bills, he had the better, he had no line of sight on what had happened there. And we saw it in the replays right afterwards. Chris Jones was standing in the way of the high-powered cameras on the sidelines. So you couldn't see where Josh Allen got to with the football, where the football was. He basically blocked it at the exact perfect time. Do you think that the referee that was closer, but also blocked by a significantly taller from that angle, Chris Jones, do you think he was actually able to see where the ball got to? The guy on the other side of the field that marked Josh Allen shorter, he had the best line of sight to that play. But the problem is, since Josh Allen got turned around, there's no way to know where the football was as he was trying to fight and claw for that yard. But since he was going backwards, I think it stands to reason that the ball never actually got to where it needed to go. Am I going to say that confidently? If you held a gun to my head, I absolutely would not. But I think people are looking at that play and they think it was a first down for a Bills team that was really struggling to move the football at that point. Really struggling. A Bills offense, they got away from doing what it was doing well earlier in the game. I mean, they had to do a tush push on the series before to get a first down. They barely got it. Josh Allen fumbled. People are looking at that and they're saying, well, of course the Bills were going to march down the field and score. I don't know, man. Seemed like they forgot that they had James Cook on a 3rd and 3 to play before the 4th and short that Allen got stuffed. And, of course, on the 4th and short. Then they forgot they had James Cook, who was averaging 6 yards a carry on their last drive of the game where they had 3 minutes and 30 seconds to move and all 3 timeouts plus the 2-minute warning. He wasn't even on the field the first 5 plays. And then they never used him. But we always want to point at the referees and we want to point at the league saying that they are rigging it so that they get the absolute most ratings in the Super Bowl. Taylor Swift's going to be there. The Chiefs are going for a three-peat, which has never been done before. Of course they're going to rig this game. But I look at it from this perspective. The best teams in the NFL, they execute when it matters most. And I know it's so cliche and it's so lame, but it's what fucking happened. Do you know what the Bills were on 3rd down in this game? All you people who are super mad about the Bills getting robbed here. They were 5 for 14. This offense with possible MVP Josh Allen was 5 for 14 on 3rd down. They had to go for it on 4th down in this game 6 times. And they were 4 for 6 on those 4th downs. But they run that tush-push play, and it doesn't really work that well for them. Josh Allen's slow getting the snap. He's slow pushing the pile forward. Isn't it kind of incredible that Tom Brady, who is less athletic than Josh Allen, is better at the quarterback sneak than Josh Allen? I mean, it's a play that should work. It doesn't work. The Bills keep running it. And I really felt like in this game, the Bills just had massive brain farts. Hit a 3rd and long screen that went nowhere. And when James Cook is doing whatever he wants against the Chiefs, he's got to get more than 13 carries for 80 whatever yards it was. He's got to get the ball more. But no, it's the refs. It's the referees. They're out to get us. We poor Buffalo Bills. No, this is just what your franchise is historically. When the lights shine brightest, you might execute for the most part, but there are going to be a couple of little mistakes here or there. Like the 4th and 5 play. How does Joe Brady not have a play drawn up where Josh Allen has protection in case the Chiefs say, fuck it, let's blitz? 5 guys in protection for that play? Not even a running back to pick any of them up? And to Allen's credit, he escaped. He threw the ball downfield. And it did hit Dalton Kincaid in the hands. It would have been a tough catch, but it did hit him in the hands. But you're running that play call. on a 4th and 5 do or die situation and you're Joe Brady. What was that? What was the play call that you ran on the 2-point conversion where it was the right call to go for 2? What was that play call, though? Why did you forget about James Cook? I mean, let's be honest. You're lucky to have even been in the game at the very end, given that they fumbled 5 times. But we want to blame the refs because it's convenient. It's rigged. I don't know. How about Patrick Mahomes played one of his best games of the year? Can't you give them credit? Does it always have to be the referees? There was no flopping from Mahomes in this game. He put his shoulder into people. He played tough. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. Really, the one mistake that he made was on that one handoff that he fumbled. It was a messed up exchange. But Patrick Mahomes played a really good game, 18 of 26 for 245 yards, averaging 9.4 yards per attempt. That's a pretty damn good number. Most of those most successful plays were to Xavier Worthy. And of course, yeah, there was that one play that probably wasn't a catch. But I think that people are looking at this the wrong way. And I'm tired of constantly people saying, oh, well, it's rigged against us, when the team who lost fair and square. And this is me pointing at Texans fans who were pissed off about the Texans losing to the Chiefs. CJ Stroud got sacked 8 times. And you had the worst special teams day that I think I've ever fucking seen. But it's the refs. The game's rigged. Sure, Kansas City's going to receive some favorable calls from time to time. But don't act like it's just one-sided, especially when the NFL, before yesterday's game, was doing damage control through Adam Schefter, who they give a lot of access to. I don't know how many people saw that post before the game that Adam Schefter put out there. And I think that it being put out the way that it was, it just led to all sorts of people actually agreeing. It did seem like it was a bit of fan service. In case you didn't see this tweet, and you're a smart person and you stay off the godforsaken app known as Twitter and or X. What do people call it now? I'll be honest, I just call it Twitter because it's easy. But here is a statistic that Adam Schefter brought up after this article that he wrote. For all those complaining that Patrick Mahomes gets too many calls, relief could soon be on the way. NFL Replay Assist is expected to expand this offseason into plays that could include the quarterback slide, league sources told ESPN. Good. It's not just about that. I imagine it's about the Trevor Lawrence hit too. But you also have these stats from Paul Hemba, who's, I think, like the stat guy for Get Up and the Pat McAfee show. Penalties during the Chiefs' 8-game winning streak in the playoffs via Paul Hemba. Roughing the passer, Chiefs 0. Opponents 6. Unnecessary roughness, Chiefs 1. Opponents 4. So people are looking at that and they're saying, oh, yeah, the refs are helping them win. And I just don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's what happened in this game. I really don't. And you're looking at that. And by the way, that is the NFL, which is so quick to react to any backlash that it gets, that it generally overcorrects too quickly without going through due process and looking things over. This is a situation where the NFL realizes that people are starting to question the credibility of the product. I don't think that the refs were on the take or the refs were being told what to do. Like those coaches who are trying to get Coach Boone fired in Remember the Titans. You've seen that scene, the defensive coordinator for the Remember the Titans movie, the Disney movie. Like he kind of gets pushed out of the job for a black head coach, and all these Virginia referees in one game where they realize that he's really going places, Coach Boone. They decide like to just rig it against the players for the entirety of the game. And in the middle of it, the defensive coordinator steps up to the ref and is like, listen, if this keeps up, I'm going to bring you all down with me. A goofy subplot, but that's not what's happening out there. I feel like a lot of people believe that's the case. I'm going to read some comments here on YouTube. Toro McJohnson says, Sean McDermott shits himself again. James Dunn comments, it's hard to win when you have to play against the refs. That's not why the Chiefs won. It's kind of disrespectful to what they've been doing over this entire run. They executed when they needed to. The Bills did not. 5 for 14 on third down. 5 for 14. Like, that's terrible. Josh Allen didn't have a very good game. They forgot that they had James Cook. They called bad play calls. It's ridiculous. More comments here. Chris G says, the Bills' defense is why they lost. They could not stop the Chiefs. They were getting anything they wanted. They couldn't stop the Ravens either. Needed mistakes to beat them. That's a great point. Mark Andrews, I mean, he gave that game away to the Bills. The Ravens should have at least sent that thing to overtime, if not won it outright. Tormac Johnson says the Super Bowl is like WWE. Kansas City will get the three-peat, but drops the title next year because the NFL doesn't want the product to get stale. A new champion will be crowned next season. Texans will win the Super Bowl next year. If they are rigging things, I doubt that. No offense to Texans fans. The newest franchise in the NFL, which does not have the Q rating that they had going into this past season, given how disappointing they were on offense, I don't think that's the team that they're going to make the team. You know? Like, if it was going to happen, wouldn't it have happened for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens? Wouldn't it have happened for Josh Allen and the Bills? Paul, doesn't that lend itself to the idea that the NFL is rigged for the Chiefs? No, it doesn't. Guys, the hats of tinfoil, you need to take them off. And I can put one on for you if you want right now. You know, I have a tinfoil hat. Okay? Here's my tinfoil hat. But even with the power of the tinfoil hat on, I'm not going to ignore the fact that the Bills called horrible play calls on those 4th and 1s, that they were 5 for 14 on third down, and that they completely forgot that they had James Cook at the very end of the game. Sorry, not going to do that. Point at Sean McDermott, Bills head coach. Point at Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator. They're the ones who fucked this one up, not the refs. Give the Chiefs a little bit of credit. I get it. You're mad. You're tired of Patrick Mahomes. You're tired of Travis Kelce. You're tired of Taylor Swift. Though, how could you be tired of Taylor Swift? I'm a proud Taylor Swift ally now. Thank you, TikTok, for making me realize that my true calling is to just pander to Taylor Swift. I had a huge post blow up. Basically, I did something incredibly toxic. I guess if you're toxic in Taylor Swift's honor, you become a champion of the Swifties. And I will draw power from them, and I will draw clout from them, and we will have a very amazing relationship from here on out. But I get that you're sick of all that shit. The refs are not the reason that the Chiefs won that game. They're not. You got to stop. It's sad, and it's pathetic. And like, you feel victimized because of how the Texans lost. Stroud got sacked 8 times. The special teams played like shit. And I've seen some people come up with the argument telling me and Seth and others, oh, well, they were like depressed after those plays didn't go their way. Fuck off with that. Come on, get over it. You got to execute ultimately. The Bills had so many chances to execute in this game, and the Chiefs defense made huge plays when they needed to, and the Chiefs offense made huge plays when they needed to. Bills did not. It was a rough day at the office for Josh Allen. It was a rough day at the office for Sean McDermott. It was a rough day at the office for Joe Brady. Ultimate Fan, what's up, buddy? On Instagram at Sports Gallant, said I'm already in roughneck mode. Yeah, roughneck, baby. Drill, baby, drill. He says this Super Bowl will be the lowest in ratings in years. I don't know, man. I don't think so. The Chiefs are going for a three-peat. You got the Taylor Swift part of the equation. And you got the Eagles. So you got a huge fan base, like one of the biggest nationwide fan bases watching the Super Bowl too. You got Saquon Barkley playing well. I'm sure there are some people who will not watch it. this time around, but I don't know, man, lowest ratings in years. I'm having a hard time believing that. Ultimate Fan also asks about the new Houston Texans president. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'll be honest, when it comes to the executive side of things, like, this doesn't really interest me that much, but it is noteworthy. I mean, they moved on from Greg Grissom, who was there for 25 years. Chris G on YouTube comments, Eagles better win from top to bottom. They have a better roster than the Chiefs. They do, but are they as well coached as the Chiefs? You know how the Patriots kept winning all those years? Were they the most talented team? Sometimes they were very talented, but they just didn't screw up. The Bills screwed up a lot last night. Honestly, I think they were fortunate, just given they had 5 fumbles and they still were in the game at the end because they recovered all 5 of them. I mean, think about how crazy that is. Nick says, all credibility is gone if you think the refs don't favor the Chiefs. You're a milquetoast fence sitter. Grow up. No, I'm just not a pussy. Like, I'm sorry. I'm tired of people pointing to the refs for the failures of their favorite team. People actually put up pretty convincing statistics over the course of last week showing that the Chiefs get penalized more often than the teams that they go up against in the playoffs on a per game basis. People didn't do a very good job of showing the math because the Chiefs have played 7 to, I think, 19 more games than every other NFL team. I'm sure there are some situations where for a Patrick Mahomes, he is going to get a friendly call after a roughing that, let's say, who's like a mediocre quarterback that Sam Darnold wouldn't get, for sure. But at the same time, like, I just, please stop with this acting like that's why they lost. The Texans didn't lose because of that. They certainly had a couple of moments go against them. I thought those roughing the passer calls were bullshit, and I thought Mahomes flopping on the sideline was unmanly, but come on. Chris G comments, Paul, I think a lot of fans are talking about the refs because it seems like every single 50-50 call goes the Chiefs' way and calls that keep drives alive, and they end up scoring. Yeah, but what's a 50-50 call? You know? What's a 50-50 call? What do you mean by that? Because if we're saying it feels like it, well, we're conditioned to think that the Chiefs get it, especially with just what the dialogue's been about the Chiefs the last couple of days and the last couple of weeks. So I think people, whenever it happens, they're reaching and they're saying, yes, this is exactly what's happening. Ultimate Fan asks, and I talked about this earlier, do you think that 4th down was a good or a shit call? I think it was a shit play call. I truly do not know if he made it. I don't think that the referee at the top of the field had a good angle on where the play stopped. I really don't. I feel like the ref that gave him the favorable spot, I don't think there's any way he could have seen where Allen was, because Chris Jones was in the way. You saw that on the replay too. I'm sure he assumed that he made it that far, but I doubt that the referee saw that. The problem is there was no pool report after the game, so no one got to ask the referee what happened on that situation. And the guy on the short side of the field, the near side of the field, though, was closer to us on the camera, he was able to see, I think, where Allen got to. The problem was he just couldn't see where the ball was. I'm not convinced that the ball got over the line. Did the ball get to the line? Perhaps. Did it get over it? I don't know. It does seem like that's one of those situations where you bring the chain out. And I honestly forget whether or not they brought the chain out. I don't remember that moment. Is that something that they got rid of this year? Am I taking crazy pills? NFL chain measurement. I'm looking this up. Sorry, everybody. 2024 season. I don't think there's any changes made to it, right? They're still testing an electronic system to measure first downs, but yes, they're still using chains. It's just not ready for regular season use. They're going to use Hawkeye technology going forward. They want it to be used efficiently in all stadiums, and not every single stadium can do it at this point in time. So it's just the 2 bright orange sticks in a chain at this point. Okay. Ball spots are tough. I'm not convinced that he got there. I tend to side with the broadcast when they all say that it was clearly over, but I don't know. The replay left it open to interpretation, I think. Toro McJohnson says, unbiased Patriots fan Paul trashing the Bills. The Bills, this is what every Patriots fan thinks about the Bills. Like, they're cute. No, I have way more reason to root against the Chiefs because I don't want the Chiefs to catch the Patriots in Super Bowls. I don't want Patrick Mahomes to catch Tom Brady in Super Bowls. Like, you don't get it. The Bills are cute. We've never thought of the Bills as anything, and until they win a Super Bowl, we never will. Like, they're the cute team with the fun fans in the AFC East. That's it. Like, oh, look at the little Bills. Oh, they make it to a Super Bowl again. Oh no, they lost in catastrophic fashion just before they got there. Like, I will say, I'll admit, one of my friends, Steve, in college, who apparently is a Bills fan, but we never knew about it when he was in college. And now all of a sudden he talks shit to me. I will admit, like, I like seeing the Bills lose, but this game yesterday, I had no rooting interest. I was hoping for a good game. I'm rooting for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, like Joey, entirely because I want to see the Chiefs get stopped. And that's weird, even though half my family's from Philadelphia, but like, the last time the Patriots played the Eagles in the Super Bowl, that side of my family was talking endless amounts of shit to me. Wasn't a fan of that. M&D Production says, I'll go for the Colts and Cowboys before I go for the Chiefs. I think I'd go for the Cowboys over the Chiefs. Joey Agrella asks, Paul, what about Pete Carroll, new head coach of the Raiders? Good for Pete. I'm glad he's back in the game. I think it'll be fun for him in Vegas. We'll have more thoughts on that as the week goes on, because I really, right now, I'm just focusing on the games that happened yesterday. Also on the latest when it comes to the Houston Texans. So they have interviewed Gerard Johnson, their quarterback coach, for the offensive coordinator gig. From what I understand, the interest that the Jets, with Aaron Glenn, the new head coach, have in Gerard Johnson has been a bit overstated. But Gerard Johnson and Bill Lazor on the Texans' current coaching staff are being considered as offensive coordinators. Also being considered, Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, who doesn't call plays. Also, the target I'm hearing is the most likely candidate, if they go out of house, is Nick Caley. You've probably heard of Nick Caley. Nick Caley interviewed for the Texans offensive coordinator gig back in 2023 after they'd hired DeMeco Ryans. This is a guy who has some ties to Nick Caserio because he was an offensive assistant with the Patriots when Caserio was an executive in New England. He coached the Patriots tight ends there, and he went to the same school, John Carroll University, as Nick Caserio. So Caley does seem like a candidate where the Texans are going to look at him, have familiarity with him, especially if he is a wanted target. So if I had to bet on who the next guy would be, I'm going to guess it would be Nick Caley, who currently with the Rams is their tight ends coach and passing game coordinator. We also learned why the Texans moved on from Bobby Slowick. This is in an article from Aaron Wilson of Channel 2. Quote, DeMeco Ryans weighed the direction of the offense, the upside and downside of making a change, and the input of key players in formulating a decision that was ultimately entirely his call, per league sources. Multiple players spoke candidly, expressing concern about the direction and philosophy of the offense, the play calling, and a general lack of production and consistency. That wasn't the sole factor in determining this difficult decision, but it was a consideration per sources. From what I understand, it was a lot of the key figures, including CJ Stroud. I don't think Laramie Tunsil ever really bought into Bobby Slowick. I think Tank Dell, with perhaps good reason, wasn't a fan. There are other names as well that I heard. Aaron's article has this quote as well. A loss of confidence in Bobby Slowick, including from key players, frustrated with the regression of the offense, was another key factor in the decision made by DeMeco Ryans, who shared an office and is close to Slowick from their time working together as assistants in San Francisco. From what I understand, there was a specific moment where the team lost confidence in him, and it had nothing to do with things that happened in a game. It's a pretty interesting story. Again, like, I don't know what is and what isn't, but it was a piece of gossip that you hear and you think to yourself, damn. I can kind of see why they might be out on him. So I'll just leave it at that. We talked about them moving on from Bobby Slowick on Friday. I think most people are happy that they pulled the trigger on him. I do wonder who the next person will be. And I am a little bit concerned about the possibility of them staying in-house. Because in-house this year has been a bit of a mess. Another option for them, he ended up taking a job with New England. Thomas Brown, who they've interviewed before to be the head coach of this team back in 2023. And Mike McCarthy, Doug Peterson, two names that a lot of people are suggesting they are only interested in head coaching gigs based off of the reporting I've read. As far as Chip Kelly, he has been floated as a potential name. I know DeMeco Ryans likes him. The Texans are going to have to spend to get him. Are they willing to spend? I would think so. I bet they'd spend on DeMeco Ryans. But we'll see. We will see. Chop in 1970 says the Patriots will be irrelevant as long as Josh Allen is in the division. I don't know, man. I mean, Mike Vrabel aboard. Drake May, what he did this past season in an organization that was a complete mess. Things could not have been messier. It was like early 90s messy Patriots. I feel like sky's the limit. I mean, look at what Vrabel did with Ryan fucking Tannehill. Now, he had some help from Arthur Smith, and I'm not exactly convinced that Josh McDaniels as offensive coordinator is the right guy for the Patriots to bring back into the fold, but I feel like this will be a much better coached team going back away from a player-friendly coach who also seemed to be willing to throw them under the bus publicly to the media, which was exactly what he said he wasn't going to do. Toro McJohnson says no on Chip Kelly and Bill O'Brien for next offensive coordinator. I have a YouTube video up, and it says we jokingly on 97.5 we were messing around and talking about how what were we doing? We messed around a little bit, and we were just naming funny names, goofy names. It's a good old time. A grand old time. So that's the latest with the Houston Texans coaching situation. Was a big weekend for the Rockets. We'll see what they do tonight against the Boston Celtics. I'm recording this at 4:30. They tip off against Boston in about 2 hours. We'll talk more about the Rockets and what they do on tomorrow's stream, which you can catch 4 o'clock Central Time. The Astros traded Ryan Presley to the Chicago Cubs on Sunday in the middle of those conference championship games. And what they got in exchange for him was a single A pitcher who's 20 years old, Juan Bello. We'll see if he'll ever do anything for the Astros. And they saved about $8.5 million worth of salary. So now, theoretically, they are under the luxury tax threshold, which they were over by about $3 million. First, and if you watch this clip on my YouTube channel earlier, I feel like the Astros did Ryan Presley dirty. I felt that the Astros looked at Ryan Presley and shamed him into waiving the no-trade clause that he earned, both through the stipulations of baseball's collective bargaining agreement and with how well he pitched for the Astros in the postseason. I don't like that they strong-armed him into waiving his no-trade clause to go to Chicago, especially considering he doesn't strike me as the kind of person who'd like to go to Chicago. But he did waive it, and the Astros saved some money. But now I'm wondering what happens next, because I am not convinced that the follow-up move is going to be that the Astros actually get Alex Bregman. And that's why I felt like the Astros were trying to shame Presley into waiving his no-trade clause. Take a look at the reporting that happened on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, where every single update about Ryan Presley also featured, if the Astros save some money and get him to waive his no-trade clause, they could potentially go and get Bregman. And I'm wondering if they thought that maybe Presley's never going to waive the no-trade clause, but if we put this out there, people are going to believe that Ryan Presley is standing in the way of Alex Bregman, as opposed to the dumb contracts that we have given out over the last few years. Some from James Click, some from Jeff Bagwell and the Letterman Jacket Skull and Bone Society. And you could also argue from Dana Brown, because the Josh Hader contract, I don't like it. It does allow for a little bit of plausible deniability. Say Ryan Presley never waived the no-trade clause, but he did waive it, and now he's gone. And now the assumption is that the Astros, with a little bit of extra money, are going to use that to get Alex Bregman aboard. But I've seen nothing and have heard nothing about the Astros increasing their offer. I think they're just leaving that one offer out there, and they're hoping that eventually Bregman's going to get desperate, come back to the table, sign it, and come back. What happens if that doesn't happen? What happens? Are people actually going to hold the Astros' feet to the fire on this? After a disappointing regular season where they finish strong, but get swept in 2 games by the Detroit Tigers. I wonder. I hope that people will be critical of them. Jim Crane claimed that the Astros window will be open as long as he's the owner of this team. Cool. Awesome. Great. But if you're not doing anything after trading a reliever who isn't the same guy he used to be and probably should be only used in like the 6th inning, I don't know what that translates to in the National League. I'm assuming the Cubs are giving him the closer role for him to waive his no-trade clause. But what are you thinking is going to happen if they don't bring something in with the money that they save? Like, do you think people will actually go and hit them hard? I will. But I wonder. You can't argue that the window's still open, though, if you're not going to do anything with this extra cheddar that you save for yourself. So we'll see what happens on that front. But I'm not convinced that Alex Bregman is going to be back with the Houston Astros. I'm just not convinced of it. You got any questions you can ask him over the course of this live stream at youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports, on X at Gallant Says, and on Twitch. Did I say Twitch? I always forget like one of the 5 things that I'm trying to toss to. But it probably doesn't help that I have all these different handles. Oh yeah, Instagram at Sports Gallant. You have a question after the fact, you can send me an email, gallantsays@gmail.com. Quick show today We will be back at it tomorrow at 4. Appreciate everyone for stopping by. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe on YouTube or subscribe on Twitch. Follow my Facebook page, facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports, on X at Gallant Says, TikTok at Gallant Says, and Instagram at Sports Gallant. We will be back at it with a radio show tomorrow at noon to 3, ESPN 97.5, 92.5. Gallant and George. Subscribe to that podcast if you haven't already. And you can get this after the fact in podcast form on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Until tomorrow at noon on the radio and then at 4 o'clock on the mean internet, I am merely Paul Gallant.